Hello and welcome to this special segment in CNBC TV 18. The European Investment Bank is one of the largest financial institutions in the world. In fact, it's almost twice the size of similar institutions like the World Bank, and it's going to scale up its presence in India. We are going to talk to the chairman of the bank, Werner Hoyer, on issues related to European Union's engagement in India and what kind of strategy does the bank have for the country. Thank you so much for joining us at CNBC TV 18. Let me start by asking you about Brexit, because at the moment this is one of the biggest issues concerning European Union. Now, we heard you talk about how it's a wrong decision of a big proportion, but the Article 50 that has been triggered by United Kingdom, which means that probably in a couple of years we will see the separation process being complete. So just give us a sense of how things will progress going forward, especially during this intermediate period, and what happens after the separation happens as far as UK and EU is concerned.
Well, this is, of course, the sovereign decision of the British people. And this is something we have to respect. But on the other hand, everybody, or almost everybody, will understand that I regret that very much, because I don't like to see the United Kingdom leaving the European Union, this integration process, which is second to none in history, in its success, and I believe also in its bright future. We might have made considerable mistakes in the European Union not to transmit the messages, not to explain, not to have a new narrative on Europe for the future. We are maybe too much past-oriented there. But giving it up would be a great mistake, and this is why I'm not happy with the decision. But of course we have to accept it. The United Kingdom is not only a member of the European Union, but on this way also a shareholder of the bank, because the shareholdership in the bank is linked to the membership in the European Union. So that will somehow cease in 2 years or so. That means we lose a shareholder with 16% of the shares. It's quite significant. And beyond that, our portfolio in the United Kingdom is excellent. The United Kingdom is a very good partner for innovation projects, for sustainable development projects, for energy projects, for urban development, things like transportation in London, or the Channel Tunnel, and all these things have something to do with EIB.
So this means that there will be learnings from the Brexit process going forward, not only for the bank but also the European Commission as a whole?
Full 2 years. If you look at it more closely, these 2 years shrink to 1.5 maximum, because by end of next year the whole thing needs to be settled. After that, the preparations of the European election in 2019 will begin. And at least we must know whether there will be British members of the European Parliament after that. So it is going to be a negotiation under pressure, and not only the European Union, but the United Kingdom itself will have to bear an incredible burden of negotiations, from air traffic around the world to bilateral trade agreements, what have you. They would want to get done as much as possible, but whatever the future might bring, now they are required by their own resolve to leave a divorce agreement. And divorce agreements are never a pleasant thing. And I can only hope, since we are going to remain partners and friends, partners also in NATO, allies, neighbors, the United Kingdom will remain on the map, and hopefully as friends. I can only hope that this divorce process will be taking place in a civilized manner and a constructive mood. But this will then determine the ground on which we can talk about the future. And so it will be premature to do that now.
So will this intermediate period, which will obviously see uncertainty on several counts, be it on trade, be it on other relationships that we have, the equations that both UK and European companies have, will that in any way impact the equation on the economic and trade front and the commercial front?
Well, it's hard to say what kind of precautionary measures corporates will take. This is something that goes beyond my remit. We will be affected because we have to organize our lending in the United Kingdom anew, because we want to continue. Of course, the United Kingdom is a partner and member of the European Union for the next 2 years. On the other hand, membership in the European Union means also a protection for the bank. So as in the United Kingdom, an EU institution like us, we are based on the treaties of Rome, cannot be expropriated, to give an example. So we are benefiting from the protocol on privileges and immunities, from tax exemptions, from the lack of a need for a banking license, and all these things that have to be settled in order to get through these next 2 years. And it is an ongoing process that needs to be still formalized.
Right. You talked about how UK is a shareholder, 16%, which you talked about. So what will be the cost of this separation as far as UK and its share in EIB is concerned? Because we have been reading a lot about it in the press. Give us a sense of that.
I have no idea. And I believe that if you want to do serious and constructive negotiation process, you should not talk, particularly in public, in headlines, about figures, but about methodology. What does it mean to migrate out of the European Union? And what kind of liabilities have you entered into during the time of membership in the European Union, and how are you going to dissolve that or maintain it for the future? This is a very, very complicated process. The European Commission, which is negotiating on behalf of all its EU institutions, has made up a first calculation, which I take note of, but I think it's not the end of the story. Right. And as far as the bank is concerned, I mean, you always, when you're a shareholder, you own part of the assets, but also part of the liabilities. Absolutely. And that has to be weighed against one another. So
it's fairly clear that UK will have to move out, because we also read some news reports about how there could also be an option of letting UK stay in EIB, but then of course that will require permissions from both the UK and the EIB shareholders. Well,
if one considers that desirable, then it's not enough to give permissions. It is necessary to provide the necessary statutory and treaty basis for that. And the Treaty on the European Union is quite clear on this. The shareholders of the bank are the members of the European Union.
So what do you think will be EU's strategy post-Brexit with respect to its engagement with emerging economies, specifically in Asia and I'm talking about India also? Do you think the relationship, the strategic relationship that India and EU, for example, that could also be set for an upgrade post-Brexit?
Yes. Now, this is a very interesting phenomenon, because we have to see this not in the context of Brexit, but in the context of the global developments, which are breathtaking. What does the departure of the United States from the Trans-Pacific Cooperation mean? I mean, for a while we had the impression, or I had the impression, that something very, very fascinating is developing around the Pacific Ocean that can lead to a very, very strong power center there, with the clout to set the pace for the development of international standards and so forth. So now this seems to be abandoned by the United States government. In my view, we should not concentrate on complaining. We should concentrate on seeing the opportunities there. And I think this is a wake-up call, not only for the Europeans to get their act together in many fields, from defense to economic cooperation, but also for the European Union and its key strategic partners in Asia and also in Latin America, by the way. And therefore, I would be very happy to see now a stronger engagement of the European Union with Asian partners. And this is obviously primarily important with India.
Right. Talking about Mr. Trump and his policies, obviously he will be focusing, and he has said it and made it amply clear that he will be focusing on domestic interests as far as trade is concerned, as far as promoting his companies are concerned. So can the European Union then provide a counter narrative to this phenomenon that we are seeing in the United States?
Counter narrative would, for me, go too far, because we simply should stick to what we believed in before, and we still believe in. And this is something where we are very close to our Indian friends, because I believe this is a situation where India should even more open up and be part of the global community. We are both in Europe and in India friends of multilateralism, and we should strengthen multilateralism. I believe, by the way, one day the United States will come back to that, because they will hurt all of us, but themselves the most, with this departure from international division of labor and multilateralism. So I believe time has come for a strengthening of the political, economic, technological relations between India and the European Union.
On that note, we will take a short break. Stay tuned.